Have you ever stopped to think? What if one day you were tied up deep in the forest, tortured by 3 ruthless poachers, no one around, no help coming, and death creeping closer, second by second. Just when all hope seems lost, a massive male lion appears out of nowhere, but it doesn't come to attack. It comes to protect you. But why? Who is he? And why would a lion risk everything for you? The story I'm about to tell you is not a legend. It's a living memory, burned into the heart of the Kruger wilderness. About Amanda, a fearless ranger, and a lion whose eyes had once gazed upon kindness. 3 p.m. In the suffocating heat of Kruger National Park, Amanda froze. Beneath the soft earth, a deep tire track carved its way through an off-road section. Someone had entered the reserve illegally, and they had no right to be there. Amanda, 34, was a seasoned ranger with 12 years of hardened experience. She had stared down angry elephants, faced down 3-meter cobras, and handled creatures most people couldn't bear to look at. But today, what stopped her in her tracks wasn't an animal. It was something far more dangerous. Humans. The tire marks didn't match any ranger vehicle. No standard military boots either, just dusty, high-cut footprints. Everything pointed to one chilling truth. Poachers were inside. And yet, instead of radioing her team, she made a choice. "I can handle a couple of sneaky guys," she muttered to herself. That decision would change her life forever. As Amanda moved deeper into the thick underbrush following the tire tracks, it only took a few minutes before she heard it. The clang of metal, a faint hiss. Then, a scene unfolded in front of her that left her absolutely frozen. A group of 3 men were setting up a makeshift camp. Scattered around them, animal traps, silenced rifles, and live bait. On the dirt clearing, they had just pried open a large crate. Inside were animal skins, bones, and elephant tusks. Amanda gasped for air. These weren't your average poachers. These men were professionals, ruthless, and more than willing to kill to escape. She stepped back, reaching for her radio. But her hand brushed over an empty holster. Her radio, it was gone. Must have fallen somewhere along the trail. And then, a soft sound behind her, like a twig snapping. Amanda turned. Too late. A bone-crushing blow to the back of her neck sent her crashing to the ground in agony. Her vision blurred, colors bleeding together, and the last thing she saw was the cold, expressionless face of one of the poachers leaning in close, whispering, "Ranger, huh? Today's not your lucky day." Amanda woke up in darkness. Her arms and legs were bound tightly to a rusted metal chair. Her mouth was parched. Blood trickled from a gash on her forehead. In front of her, a crude camp lit by a dim yellow lamp, and 3 men laughing. "Told ya, this place gave me bad vibes," one of them muttered, gripping his gun tightly. "Rangers these days are gutsy. Coming alone? Stupid," another scoffed, puffing on a cigarette, then pressing the burning tip right into Amanda's arm. The sizzle of burning flesh echoed in the silence. Amanda clenched her jaw, trembling. Tears welled up in her eyes, not from the pain, but from the fear that she wouldn't live long enough to stop these monsters from tearing the forest apart. They interrogated her. "Where's the ranger outpost? Who are you with? Does anyone know you came?" She said nothing. Through every blow, every question, Amanda held her stare, defiant, unbroken, and that infuriated one of them. He yanked up his gun, pressed the barrel against her forehead. "You want to be a hero?" he growled. "Let's see who comes to save you in the middle of this goddamn jungle." And right then, a deep, earth-shaking roar exploded from the forest. Low, feral, and terrifying. The poachers jumped to their feet, their rifles trembling in their hands. The leader's voice cracked. What the hell was that?" The trees trembled. A second roar tore through the night, closer this time, louder and laced with pure rage. There was no doubt now. Something was coming, and it was big. The three poachers raised their rifles, panic in their eyes. Amanda, still bound, craned her neck to peek through the flap of the canvas tent. Out of the darkness, a massive shadow emerged. Its eyes burned with fury, its mane wild and tangled, muscles rippling under the lantern light. It roared again, so powerfully that the very ground shook beneath them. A giant male lion. No fear, no hesitation. It charged like a streak of golden lightning. Bang! Gunshots cracked the air. Bullets grazed past, one slicing into its left shoulder. Blood sprayed. But the lion did not stop. With one savage swipe, it slammed a poacher clear across the tent. The second man screamed as claws tore through his face. He tried to run. Too late. The last one dropped to his knees, trembling, firing wildly. One shot hit the lion in the gut. It howled, but still stood tall, still growling, still standing guard, like a warrior, like a protector, between Amanda and death. The gunfire had echoed far, loud enough to reach Amanda's team. 4 jeeps thundered into the clearing like rolling thunder. Headlights blasted into the chaos. A battlefield of blood, roars, and gun smoke. "Drop your weapons! Park rangers!" a voice shouted into the mayhem. But the lion didn't understand human words. It was still fighting. And then, another shot. A bullet tore into its hind leg. It collapsed with a roar of agony. "Stop shooting! Please don't shoot him!" Amanda screamed, her voice raw with desperation. She didn't care about herself anymore. Her hands were still tied, blood still dripping from her head. But her focus was only on him. The rangers saw it too. They finally understood. They held their fire. Within minutes, the 3 poachers were taken down. 2 lay motionless. The third, cuffed and pinned to the ground, kept muttering, "That thing, that wasn't a normal lion." The lion collapsed beside Amanda. Its breathing was labored. Blood soaked into its golden fur. No more roaring, no more resistance. Just silence. Like it had given all it had to give. The rangers rushed both of them into the ambulances, and just before the darkness of blood loss pulled Amanda under, she reached out and gently touched the mane of the creature that had saved her life. But what happened next? Did Amanda survive? Did the lion? Or was this the end of something unforgettable? And what about the memory from 3 years ago? A moment buried deep in Amanda's past. But before we dive in, dear listener, take a breath, grab a snack, sip some water. Because this story is far from over. And the most gripping part is still to come. In her unconscious haze, Amanda saw herself walking through a rain-soaked forest. That year, the cold came early, and the wind carried with it the thin metallic scent of blood, seeping into the mud. A soft whimper, faint, but enough to make Amanda stop. This was 3 years ago, when she was newly assigned to the western region of Kruger. On patrol one morning, she'd come across a trail, a winding smear of blood stretching across the wet earth. Following it, she found it. A lion cub. No more than a few months old. Its front leg caught in a steel jaw trap. Blood pooled around its tiny body, soaking into the red soil. It hissed, growled weakly. But its eyes, they weren't afraid, only filled with pain. Amanda should have called for backup. That was protocol. But something inside her said, if you wait, it'll bleed out. She moved slowly, held her breath with every step, spoke softly, soothing it with words it couldn't understand, but somehow did. And after a few tense, agonizing minutes, she released the trap. The cub didn't lash out, didn't bolt. Instead, it turned its head and looked at her. Not for a second, but for what felt like forever. A gaze that etched itself into Amanda's heart. Then, it silently slipped into the bushes and vanished. Amanda's eyes fluttered open. Tears streamed down her bruised cheeks. On the hospital bed beside hers, he lay there, the lion, bandaged, unconscious, but breathing. She looked down at his hind leg, where the fur wouldn't grow back, where a long scar ran across the skin, right where the trap had clamped down 3 years ago. There was no doubt. It was him. 2 weeks had passed since the battle in the forest. At the park's Wildlife Rescue Center, in a special recovery room, 2 lives, 2 survivors, lay side by side. Amanda, her arms and chest wrapped in white gauze, rested silently on the hospital bed. Not far away, behind a thick pane of glass, lay the male lion. His wounds had been stitched. His back leg, still bandaged, twitched slightly in his sleep. The doctors had told her, if you'd arrived just minutes later, neither of you would have made it. But now, they were healing, day by day. Amanda spent hours just sitting there, watching him through the glass. And sometimes, he would look back, that deep, unreadable stare. So strangely human. One quiet afternoon, when she was finally allowed to approach closer, Amanda stepped toward him. She reached out her hand toward the long scar on his leg. The fur there would never grow back. She touched it gently, whispering, "Same old scar. I never thought you'd survive, let alone come back to save me." The lion tilted his head slightly. Then, in a moment that made her breath catch, he pressed his forehead into her palm. No words, no chains, just a connection, unspoken, unbreakable. The day of her discharge was approaching. The vets gave her the news gently. "We'll be releasing him back into the wild, back where he belongs." Amanda nodded, but inside, her heart sank. Would he vanish again, just like 3 years ago? One morning, the sky was clear. A soft breeze rustled through the treetops. Amanda stood beside the large gate that opened into the protected wilderness, the place where he would be set free. She didn't say a word, just watched and hoped. The truck rolled to a slow stop. The cage door creaked open. The lion stood still for a moment, then stepped out onto the familiar earth. He didn't look back. Not once. He simply walked, step by step. until the green swallowed him whole. Amanda remained there, long after he had vanished. She knew. Nature keeps nothing forever. What happened between them? The battle, the survival, that gaze of silent gratitude. Maybe it was nothing more than a strange, fleeting moment in the endless flow of the wild. 2 days later, Amanda was back on duty, walking her usual patrol route. But inside, she felt hollow. Something was missing. Everything was calm. Until she heard it. Soft footsteps, crunching lightly over dry leaves. She turned and couldn't believe her eyes. Through the shafts of sunlight streaming between the branches, he was standing there, still, silent, watching her. And then he began to follow her, step by step, like a shadow. This time, he didn't leave. Since that day, people began to witness something extraordinary in the heart of the forest. A woman walking quietly along winding trails, and behind her, a majestic golden lion moving slowly, like a living shadow. Amanda never tried to keep him close, and the lion never tried to leave. Some days, he would disappear for hours, melding into the wild. But when the sun began to dip behind the trees, he would return and lie beside the ranger post, standing guard, so she could sleep in peace. Word spread among travelers. Photographers searched for the legendary moment. Locals gave him a name, the guardian of the ranger. And so, between the world of humans and the world of the wild, a friendship was born. No words, no training, no conditions, just a bond. So powerful, it became a legend. They say lions are loyal only to themselves, but in one quiet corner of Kruger, there was a lion, loyal to one human, the one who once saved him from death, and he repaid her with his entire life.